And I know obviously like you mentioned the Achaemenid Empire. That started off with Cyrus the Great specifically, right?
Yes, Cyrus the Great uh, staged a rebellion against the existing big empire in the region at the time called the Medes. He was probably about 40 years old and the vassal of the Median king Astyages, who was also his maternal grandfather. And in the course of about 3 years, he not only conquered his grandfather's empire, but uh, convinced most of the Median elite and generals to come over to his side.
Wow, okay. I know he has like many origin stories if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yes, uh, the most likely one is just that he was a prince. He grew up as a prince, did princely things, and eventually became king of the little tiny vassal kingdom of Persia at the time before his rebellion. And there's a sort of version of that story told by the ancient Greek author Xenophon in a book called the Cyropaedia, which means the education of Cyrus. But a lot of that book is also just ancient historical fiction. Uh, you also have accounts from Herodotus, who describes how Cyrus was the grandson of King Astyages by his daughter, but Astyages had these dreams of his daughter's son rising up and destroying his kingdom and taking everything from him. So he went and had one of his generals try to kill the baby Cyrus, but the general got cold feet at the last minute and hid Cyrus with a peasant family, only for Cyrus to be discovered because he was playing a game with the other children and acting just too innately royal to be a peasant, whatever that meant to Herodotus at the time. And the last one is from another Greek author called Ctesias, writing a few hundred years after Herodotus, around the same time as Xenophon. And he said that Cyrus was never royalty at all and was just a bandit warlord who just fought his way to the top.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the Greek accounts are kind of interesting because they give kind of a bit more of like I guess like a more of a bizarre like origin story.
Yes,
It's kind of similar
absolutely.
to mythology in a way.
Yeah, especially the Herodotus version where he's hidden
Yeah.
with a peasant family. The archetype of the hero who's raised outside of his original circumstances is very, very old. It goes back
Yeah.
at least to Sargon of Akkad, the founder of the first real empire in human history. And then we see it with Moses, and we see it with even in modern times, they use it for Superman. There's all sorts of
Yeah.
examples of that.
Yeah. I think they even used it in the Iliad where I think like Paris is like hidden away and raised somewhere else, right?
Yeah, well, at least in the epic cycle from
Yeah.
Greek mythology, the Iliad uh, is this giant book when you look at it on a shelf, but it actually only covers about like a couple days worth of events.
Yeah. That was true. Now, with Cyrus the Great, obviously there's like I don't think it's necessarily established per se that he was Zoroastrian, but more than likely it's assumed that he was, right?
Correct. Yeah, there's really not proof of very much at all with Cyrus. We don't have a lot of sources contemporary with him, and the ones we do have are his appeals to the Babylonian people, trying to
Yeah.
legitimize himself as their ruler. So he doesn't, we don't have a lot of information about his personal life
Yeah.
outside of what's told in later stories.
Yeah. Oh, that's true. And with like what is it? With Cyrus the Great, trying to remember. Dang it. I just lost my question. I'm trying to remember. I know with I know he was like raised in like a specific like city before he actually conquered like established the Persian Empire, right?
Right. Uh, Cyrus was most likely born and raised in a city called Anshan.
Yeah,
That was one of the capitals of the very, very ancient Elamite culture. That was the predominant group in Babylon or in southern Iran before the end of the Bronze Age.
yeah. No, obviously with like Cyrus the Great, since and I remember what I was gonna say. He's like one of the few people that um was like one of the few like people that aren't isn't Jewish that was praised in the Bible, right?
Yes, he is the only non-Jew in the entirety of the Bible to be given the title Messiah,
Yeah,
because about 70 years before he took over Babylon, the Jews, or at least the population of Jerusalem, had been sent into exile by the Babylonians. And he officially ended that deportation and allowed people to start returning home.
yeah.